Hey folks, Pastor Eric Tritten here from Gloria Dei Lutheran Church in Hudson, Ohio. Thank you for taking a moment and being with me today. Christmas is almost here, and one of the things that I often think of with Christmas is that it is a time of family traditions, and that's a good and a beautiful thing. In my family, one of our family traditions is that on Christmas Eve, we will have sloppy joes. This is something that my wife's family did for years as she was growing up, and when she and I got married, we continued that tradition for our family. There are other members of our congregation who have some other different traditions regarding food. I think of some of our Scandinavian members who always do a smorgasbord, and they will have smoked fish and pickled herring and all kinds of other things with that. The pickled herring, however, does make me think of my dad because this was a tradition that he and I had. He grew up eating pickled herring, I believe, with his dad. And none of my siblings have embraced this tradition, but I remember very fondly at Christmas time having pickled herring with my dad. These are just these little things that add to our holiday celebrations. They put our mind and our whole selves into the celebration, and they connect us to our past, and that's a good thing. Christmas Eve for me as a pastor tends to be a little bit different. When I was in Michigan, I was in southeast Michigan for 13 years, and we had a midnight service. So I would get home somewhere 12:30, 1 o'clock, and was pretty much just ready to collapse. But now that we moved to Ohio, and we've been here for 11 years, we have our last service that ends at 9:30. And so I'll get home between 10:30 and 11. And now that my kids are older, they will likely still be up, and there will be festivities at home. And it's one of the things about traditions. These things change. One of my traditions coming out of church is that I will tune my radio station to 98.5 on Christmas Eve, and they often play the Trans-Siberian Orchestra Christmas special, and I'll listen to that on the way home. Traditions have all kinds of different backgrounds. They have all kinds of different meanings to us. But some of our traditions, they connect us to our past, and they focus us on our faith. And for those of us who grew up in a Christian household, those traditions that focus us on our faith can be very important. They're a part of our identity, and they are a part of remembering God's gifts and God's blessings across the years. So one of the things that we do in my house to connect us back to our faith is that on Christmas morning, we'll have a big breakfast, and at some point in that morning, we will pull out my dad's Bible. My dad died a few years ago, and we'll get my wife's dad's hymnal, my father-in-law's hymnal. He died a few years ago as well. And we will read the Christmas Gospel out of Luke 2, out of my dad's Bible. And we will read a verse from Heaven Above to Earth I Come, out of my father-in-law's hymnal. And the reason we read that verse from that hymnal is that was a prayer that my wife's grandpa used to pray every Christmas. Ah, dearest Jesus, holy child, make thee a bed soft, undefiled, within my heart, that it may be a quiet chamber kept for thee. These are beautiful traditions. They're things that take us back. They connect us to our faith. And as we think about those traditions of Christmas, I would encourage you to think beyond Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. We often have a little bit of a lull in our schedules between Christmas and New Year, and sometimes even a little bit beyond that, especially if you have kids who are in school, and you're still connected to that schedule. But there are 12 days of Christmas, and those 12 days of Christmas come after. They're not the 12 days before, they're the 12 days after. And so it's good and it's right to continue to celebrate and to maybe establish some other traditions that help us to think about these good gifts that God has given to us. So we have traditions that are old, and it's still possible to create traditions that are new, to do things that are meaningful and to engage in those things annually, to be grateful participants in these events. One of the dangers of traditions is that they become legalistic, and that they become a burden on us. I have to do this because this is the... No, these should be things that are done joyfully. They're done gladly because they're reminders and they're touchstones to our past. And hopefully, in some way, they point us to Jesus. In some way, they remind us of someone who loved us, who pointed us to Jesus. Or they might just engage us in the Word and remind us of the child in the manger and remind us of the salvation that He has won for us. So, as we come up on Christmas, I would really encourage you to think about those traditions. Pull out those family recipes if you've got them. Do the things that remind you of the good things of Christmases past. And honestly, if you don't have those good things, maybe pick up some new things and think about, how can I celebrate Jesus' birth? How can I do some things that will help me to rejoice in what my God has done for me? Merry Christmas and God's blessings.